So I started sparring earlier this year, 2023, and this actually is my very first sparring session. On just after I finished my boxing lesson. So, little bit of information you should know is that I had gotten a surgery done on my forearm, my left forearm, my jab arm. I'm orthodox, and that was July of 2022. So up until this month, I'm around 6 months post-surgery. So I kind of I wouldn't say I rushed it, but at the same time, I came in early knowing that I'm kind of handicapping myself, limiting my ability to only use mainly my right arm, which kind of shows in these videos of how I develop as a fighter. This first video that we're watching here, I'm just working on defense, but and I'm fighting a 6-foot heavyweight, and as you can see, he pretty much destroys me. And since then, I learned a few things. First thing is I do too much movement. So as you can see in this video, I'm not moving too much. I'm being lazy, basically. I'm limiting my movement so I can conserve my energy. And I'm also staring my opponent directly in his eyes so I can see everything he does. In the first video, you'll notice that my head will go to the ground and I'm looking at the floor sometimes. And I'm exhausting myself by moving so much. So in this one, I'm moving less, and I'm also staring my opponent directly in his eyes. And I'm learning how to punch. In the first video, you did not really see me punch at all. So now you'll start to see me do some punches. It's not really that great. This is actually my boxing instructor, so I didn't really. This was a light spar, nothing major. The first spar was not a light spar. The next one was a light spar. This one's a light spar. And yeah, I'm just trying to use my range. A lot of these guys are short, so I'm trying to just work on my jab. It's the most important punch. So you see me just, for the most part, only use my jab, even though that's the arm that I'm recovering from. But I'm not doing any power jabs. Now this guy is short as well. I think he's like 115 pounds, 120, 125. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'm fine with fighting guys who are lighter than me, and I'm also fighting guys who are heavier than me. So taller and heavy, and so it evens out. So I fight heavyweights. I fight featherweights. It doesn't matter. So I guess in this one, this guy actually requested to fight me or spar with me, and he also requested that I don't hit him hard. So this day I spar, I think, like 4 people straight. Pretty much all those guys lined up watching. I've spar all of them straight. This guy he just keeps on ducking, and I pretty much try to time him or line him up, just like that. Line him up, which was kind of hinting towards the fact that I need to, right there, start doing uppercuts, which I haven't really practiced. Alright, so this is another heavyweight that I'm sparring with, and I think we're doing basic punches to the head, but mainly focusing on body punches. So here, we're just trading blow for blow, pretty much, on the body punches. And it's crazy because I'm not a body puncher. I am a headhunter. I am purely a headhunter at this point. Because I hate having a counter puncher aim for my head when I'm going for their body. And I'd rather be the opposite. I would so much rather be the one punching at a person's face when they're going for my body. I'll take the head, you get the body. But here, we're just doing body punches, which to today I'm much better at body punches, but at that point I never really learned. Well, I actually never learned truly the fundamentals of anything. This is just me. Honestly, this is just me working on my balls. If that makes sense. Like, as you can see, I have no headgear on, and I'm sparring any and everyone who wants to spar me, just to gain the experience. You know, so really, it's about testing myself, and that's exactly what I was doing. I was testing myself to see if I could do boxing, because there's a bunch of pussies in boxing, and for me, it's like, if I'm gonna take this serious, I need to know if I'm gonna be a pussy. So the first, even the first day when I sparred the heavyweight, I needed to know if I can take that shit or not. And to my surprise, yeah, I can take it. So that's ultimately what these first 2 months are. Now I do train a ton of techniques. I do. But the thing is, I never really learned true fundamentals until I came back to the United States. And this is in the Philippines. For any of you who didn't know. Sparring these first 2 months, I was in the Philippines. I spent a year getting my body back into shape. I was almost 180 pounds from truck driving. And then I came to the Philippines with the whole plan that I was going to, condition myself, get the surgery on my arm, and spend a year basically studying boxing before I started. So yeah, that is another piece of information that most people don't know. I studied boxing for a year. When I say I studied boxing for a year, it includes watching a ton of videos, but I bought many books as well. I studied hardcore Cus D'Amato, Mike Tyson. I watched so much film from as early as I could possibly find it. Boxing philosophies, boxing books, all of that. Especially during the time that I was just after my surgery, I would study, and then I'd condition myself. When I was finally in condition enough that I thought I was good enough to try boxing, that's when I started sparring. That's when I started taking boxing lessons, which is pretty much what you're watching right now. And yeah, so I have an idea of what I could do, what I should do, and this is pretty much like gaining the experience. And if you notice, I'm sparring so many different types of styles. I mean, some guys use a high guard, some guys are duckers and weavers, some guys are southpaw, many of them are orthodox. Tall, skinny, short, like it's all over the place. But I don't really get good, like truly good opposition until I get to the United States, or until I get to Baguio, and this is all in Manila. So when I start to go and spar against professional fighters and national champions in different fighting combat sports and stuff like that, I get better quality opponents. This is my rematch with the heavyweight. He's a 6-foot guy who destroyed me the first time. He really, those hurt. These right here, that shook my lights, and I was angry. He smiled, and I hit him with everything I had at that part right there. I was like, "Oh, you want to smile, huh?" And I just leaped in the air and flushed it through his chin. And anything he does, I'm doing. I watched the first. Even though it was blurry, I watched the first video, and I noticed every time he punches, because he does a high guard, he'll drop his hands. So my eyes was now glued to his face, trying to see when he drops his hands, and that's when I would throw a punch. And every time he punches, that I would want to return it with a punch, And I'm all over the place because here's some inside information. I wanted to kill this guy. I really wanted to kill this guy. I spent 3 weeks training so I can get a rematch with him in sparring, and the whole time I had anger because after the first time we sparred, I don't know exactly because they're talking in the local language, but I thought he said, "Oh, this guy is weak. He has no power." And to me, it was like I wasn't actually trying. and it's just like, all right, well, hell, I have no power. All right. And it got to me. And I was just like, all right, I'll show you next time. And I trained my ass off. So you can see in this spar video, we're going at it. And he's a heavyweight. And I really do not care. Like, he wants to throw the hardest punch he can possibly throw. I'm going to throw the hardest punch I could throw. And it's just partially because, I come from a sport or sports where we don't have weight classes. And I train for guys much bigger than him. So I could care less how strong he thinks he is at that point, because to me, he's just another point guard. To me, he's just another like linebacker or running back. I played football and basketball, American football. And yeah, like, ooh, if I spar him today, it's a completely different story. Oh, man. I train way too much to look like this. I look pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie, but I get some good punches in. And again, I think this first 2 months is all about training my balls. Training, can I box or not? Can I get in here and take punishment and give punishment? Ultimately that's what it's gonna come down to. And I can train, which I have, to better my technique, to better my fundamentals, which I have, training at the Mayweather gym, training at the Wild Card in Holloway, and fighting here in the States, and getting the fundamentals down. But to me, I just feel like before we even get to that level, I just need to make sure I can actually, can I actually do it? See, I took another good punch right there, and these are punches coming from a heavyweight, and I'm taking them. And trust me when I say I did a concussion test after this sparring session to make sure I was good. I took some damage, but the whole time I was thinking, I'm gonna freaking kill you. He got a little bit that time. So this guy is a welterweight. He's around the same height. I am just lighter than he is. However, I would say we're pretty much even in terms of how we stack up, but definitely I have a longer reach, because I just have a long reach. I have a 74-inch reach, kind of like Mayweather and Terrence Crawford. And yeah, so I'm just throwing power punches. A little bit about this video is I'm not wearing hand wraps, which after this sparring session, my wrist is just messed up. Both of my wrists are messed up. That took a long time for me to heal from this. As you can see, when I'm throwing these punches, I'm hitting his guard, and I'm not caring. Right before this, I fought that heavyweight. So to me, I was like, small people are small people. To me, he's small. So I was just like, I'll just throw these punches. I'll punch through his guard. It doesn't matter. He just drops. He couldn't take the power. So it's like, I could punch through this guy's guard. But the problem was, my wrists were not trained enough to handle the impact, the strength of my wrist, and I wasn't wrapped, and I was going straight into his elbows, those uppercuts. I just hit straight into his elbow. In the fight, I did not feel it, right there, but afterwards, I definitely felt it, and it took months for me to recover from that. And yeah, I'm practicing how to use my backhand to block, my front shoulder to block. I'm doing shoulder rolls, different blocks. I'm just experimenting with stuff. Not moving too much, which I don't like the fact that my head is so high, but I fix a lot of these problems later on. So yeah, this pretty much highlights the beginning of my boxing journey. You get to see the very beginning of the sparring sessions that I had the first 2 months, and kind of hear the stories behind my boxing journey. So if you like it, follow along.